Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jim Masters Show. It's great to have you with us. Hope you guys are doing well. And thanks for joining us today. Very busy day here today. Radio shows we had to do earlier today. You guys know I work in the industry, radio and television, and we were on the air, I think, every hour of the day, maybe stopping just for a cup of coffee and maybe a quick salad or something, and also television shoots. And now we're here with all of you. How you guys doing? Thanks so much for joining us here on the program. Really, really fantastic to have you here. We got an extraordinary guest who's joining us. She's originally from New York, but she's on location at the time of this broadcast in Texas on assignment. Julie Lamb is here. Now, Julie, you think that I do a lot of stuff, huh? She wears many, many hats in the music industry, in fashion, communications, NFTs, whatever it is. She's got her hands in it, which is really, really incredible. And she's had an extraordinary life thus far and career in all these different areas. And she's had an opportunity to go on tour with music over the years. And she even has a really cool thing she does, How To with Julie Sue, helping you with some of the life hacks, figuring out ways to get through life and maybe make your life a little bit easier. And she's joining us here. And in just a second, we're going to have her on the show. First, of course, we welcome all of you. I'm your host, Jim Masters. Thanks for joining us here on the program. If you'd like to comment during the show while the show is airing, guess what you can do? Just subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. And as you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, one of the exclusives is you can chat in the JMS Lovity chat room, which is open and available right now. So you can chat with each other. I know you guys like to comment with each other and say hello to one another, all of our viewers from around the world. And you can also say hello to us as well. So feel free to chat away in the JMS Lovity chat room. That is an exclusive bonus for those who have subscribed or who are currently subscribing to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, which costs nothing. You just hit that red subscribe button on the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. And you can also binge watch hundreds and hundreds of episodes of our entertainment, lifestyle, variety talk show series with guests that come in from a myriad of different backgrounds, celebrity friends, and so much more. And we just want to say thanks as well to everybody who's been sharing the links on social media to our episodes. We really appreciate you guys doing that. Of course, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Jim Masters TV. But many of you have been sharing the episodes of our series, hundreds and hundreds of almost 900 as of today, very inching up on the 900 mark. You've been sharing the links on your social media and telling everybody about our series, which I think is fantastic. So really, really cool to have you guys here. And boy, are we going to have a great conversation with Julie. Again, she's all about town. She's always here, there, and everywhere, kind of like I am. So we were talking, comparing notes about, the craziness of our schedules, but she's really quite amazing. I want to tell you just a little bit more about her and the work that she's done and continues to do. Again, I see comments already. I really appreciate that, folks. If you want to share with us maybe your thoughts, your ideas, what you love about our show, things of that nature, feel free to do that. I think it's really, really cool to have you guys here. Now, she's also CEO and founder and executive producer, as I mentioned, of How To with Julie Sue, digital content creator, storyteller, connector. She's also a reluctant flipper and OG of VFriends. She's passionately committed to the Web3 community by elevating women's voices, educating and informing and inspiring underserved communities by creatively becoming involved, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Curating strategic partnerships has had her be a part of building blockchains, creating safe wallets, and nurturing places to explore by net weaving with others that have fire in their belly and navigating a space that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive. And we're going to talk about all this. She's very passionate. Again, she has been in the music industry as well. And we're going to show you a lot of cool things, as we bring her on and sprinkle in some amazing photos and conversations. And I mean, take a look. I mean, she's been doing it for a long time, and look at these cool shots over the years, huh? Yeah, that's an awesome. We're going to talk about that with the feathers and so much more. Yeah. So bringing back some thoughts and memories more for you as well. Maybe familiar with Freckle Funk Times. This was done in Times Square. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff to talk about. So without further ado, let's welcome, usually from New York, but right now on assignment in Texas, our special guest on the Jim Masters Show, Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series. Julie Lamb is joining us. Julie, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi, friend. How are you?
Fantastic.
I'm usually on the other side of the I guess you could say maybe the microphone or the couch. Interviewing people. This is new for me, Jim. Only for you.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. And you're on assignment in Texas. How are things in Texas right now?
Well, there's a nor'easter blowing through, so hopefully we keep our electricity here and the Wi-Fi signal. I did have to log off and log back on, but we're back on your show. Jim, it's an honor to be here with you and to really meet for the first time your Levity family. I feel like a very warm welcome by everyone. I love to be able to read the comments too. And I think that this show and many others that we all have the opportunity to participate in as viewers, or in this case, you being the host and me being the hosted, being able to read these comments is really warms our heart and lets us know that we're a large community. That's right. Collected by you and curated. We are the Levity family. I'm honored to be included in it.
The pleasure is all mine. I tell all the guests, you can get Oscars, Emmys, Tonys, Tellys, Peabodys, Grammys. But when you get designated a Levity on the Jim Masters Show Live, most say that their feet start tingling. Are your feet tingling about now, Julie?
Wasn't sure what adjective you were going to use when you started in with feet, but you know what? I have to tell you, my heart is beating and it's full. So I like the idea of the word levity. And I have a little secret to share with you. Since we're all good friends now, I have a favorite birthmark, and it's in the shape of a heart. So I feel like it's my own little, soul tattoo for you, Jim.
How perfect is that? How apropos. I mean, one of our guests was on recently, and he said when he was determined to levity, he started levitating.
Well,
that's it. I think that was author James Gavin. I think when he did a book on George Michael and a lot of others, and he was on, he says, I'm actually levitating right about now, which is nice, whatever it takes. How have you been? I mentioned, and that was just a little bit of the amazing things you've done over, your career and life's journey. You've got a lot of balls in the air and a lot of things that you're working on and have been working on all these years, huh?
It's interesting. I could say at times I feel like I'm spinning plates. The path that's brought me to where I am now is pretty linear, although it seems like it's perhaps not, just because it's a lifetime of having the opportunity of being able to be in the arts and making a lifestyle out of it. I remember, just finishing high school and people say, what are you going to do with your life? And, decided to go on to college and study music and marketing, because I knew that there was the, hand in hand. You want to be able to do something creatively, but also be able to manage your career. I realized that, and this is so important, this has not changed, that if I stopped dreaming, I might die. So I needed to keep dreaming to move ahead. And I started and continue on with music, and I play and I sing and I write. I love playing percussion. I'll noodle around on the guitar. I see yours in the background. It would be fun at one point off camera for us to get a little jam session in, and see what it's like. And then from there, I worked with a music producer out of Memphis. And he kept saying to me, you're so New York. You're so New York. And while going to school, I took time and would travel in Europe and work the collections. And I worked in Germany and Milan for fashion. I had a fashion agent find me up in Dallas and say, I think you might be able to work in fashion, although maybe size-wise, it sounds so silly right now, you guys, because thankfully we've shifted and changed that now with fashion, we all come in different shapes and sizes. We don't just fit into one box. Right. But at the time, maybe going to Paris, I might have been a little too on the outside of what they were looking for. So I did Milan and Germany. And what this really forced my hand to do was to pay attention to local music in that area. So I was able to be a part of the underground jazz scene in both of those places. And it was mind expanding, coming back with this European experience with not only music, but I would shoot with photographers and met with agents over there. So by the time I got to New York City and met Eileen Ford, and then had my first 2-year fashion contract with the Ford agency, I was able to have this fantastic book and this, I guess, this life experience. And coming in at the age of 22 to New York City, I was already very old in the fashion business there, but I had enough moxie that Eileen said, let's put her on contract and see. And then my life began in New York City, and I've now been in New York for over 30 years, and she's my home, and I've stuck with her through the pandemic, and we've seen some changes, and we stuck it through. And I will do anything for New York City. She's given me, I mean, I call her she, you know, because I think of New York as, for some reason, female in spirit, but at this point, I guess it could be a bit more, you know, it could be anything you make it. When you come to New York City, the energy you bring to the city, you will then get back tenfold.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. So what then really came first for you in your heart and soul? Was it the music that was first early on in your life's journey? Was that the first thing that you were, and was that something that you were pursuing that might have been something you wanted to just keep doing for your entire lifetime? Tell us about those early years of getting into the music world, which is not always the easiest either.
You actually do ask a very interesting question. For me, if I think about the earliest, for me, it was always, I'm a storyteller. So it just so happened that being in music, and I can tell some silly stories about being in the mall where I grew up and taking the organ lessons and stuffing my bra because I thought you had to have a stuffed bra to look like a rock star. And I was playing the Lowry organ with the foxtrot with my bra that I stuffed because I'm so OCD. I folded the tissue in the form of square, which if you've ever had to stuff your bra before, one would not stuff the bra with square folded pieces of tissue paper, but I didn't have good guidance at the time. So I didn't know. So I've always been a storyteller, and music was what brought me to the place that I am now. And it continues to be the thread through everything that I'm doing. So if I'm sharing a story with you now, you know, like this picture with my band at the time, which was Freckle, we had such a great time in New York City. This is when, if you said that you were something, the club owners believed you. If you packed it, if you came out and you recorded and you toured and you brought that back and you just made sure that people were in the clubs and venues, buying the alcohol, having a good time. And again, really being that storyteller and keeping people's attentions. This is in New Orleans, Tipitinas. I love percussive instruments. This happens. I love like hand percussion. That's my forte, 2 hands, 1 foot. And I like working with really super intelligent musicians, people who think outside the box. I think that's why studying jazz worked within my, just kind of who I am as a person. I don't really fit into one place. So I don't know that I would have been comfortable being in only a corporate job or being in a cubicle. The comfort of consistency in that at the time was not always so comforting to me. And, you know, now being able to, I love the idea of, I still love, you know, the Ziggy Stardust days and the beginning of Cher. And if you remember when Madonna, or this is a good friend of mine, he's a musician that actually taught me a really good lesson. This is Mike Dennis. He taught me that when it comes to simplicity, that is what's going to carry you through. And when I moved from Texas to New York, he said, why do you need all the stuff that you have? All you really need is a few pieces of clothes, your musical instruments, a little bit of money in your pocket, and the ability to have wanderlust. And he really taught me how to keep things in a nice, tight way. And still to this day, he introduced me to Robert Johnson and Bessie Smith and Billie Holiday. And I listened to Billie Holiday's Decca Years, just her box set over and over again. And I find that some of my emulations of my voicings might come from those first influences that Mike had shown me. So nice, big, full round. But I love the idea, like this is a fun little play accordion. And when I would play these live shows in New York City, anything that's fun and quirky and odd and unexpected, again, keeps audience retention.
It
And that,
does. Yes.
keeps people in the bar spending money on alcohol and wanting to stick around.
It's a cool shot in Times Square, huh? Tell us about this.
Well, that was fun. These guys in the band, they were, this was the funk version of Freckle. I love them. They were so willing to go to any extreme that I wanted to, look, feel, vibe-wise. And when it came to actually playing music, I was willing to surrender and be vulnerable and go where they wanted to. And we styled ourselves. We went through, at the time, there was a store, it was called Allen and Susie on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. This is where stylists would go, like our good friend Wayne Scott Luca, he would, go into this place, and that's where you would style, like Madonna would have her video styled there, or a number of other artists that came through that would, when they had their videos or their tours, they would go pick up these awesome outfits. And so we went and we just got ourselves styled, and this was our vibe for a while in New York City, doing this fun funk. And then I would do the, more pulled back version of like I look at this and I almost feel like it's a very Lenny Kravitz vibe. He was also
yes, that's what I first thought of. Yes.
Yeah, shopped at Allen and Susie too. You would walk into Allen and Susie's store, and it was an old school way of walking into someone's closet. And you could go and just pick out outfits and use them. And it was before, now we have this organization a lot of my friends use called Rent the Runway, where they get the outfits delivered to them on, a consistent basis, where they can then use them and then either ship them back or decide to keep them and buy them. This was certainly before the advent of going in and, having a service. This, where you really had to do your own research on this one.
Do your own, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Greg Allman. Yeah. Huh?
So I, had gone on tour with the Allman Brothers. It was a really big learning experience for me. This was a big part of me learning about really large organizations. When you were going into massive houses of, musical displays. So working really seriously, going from the smaller venues in New York City and now working with union members and going from city to city and being in the tour bus. And what did that mean? And what kind of lifestyle did I want to choose with that process? And for me, it was very important that I stayed within that jazz, I guess what you call maybe more of a
genre?
Not only just genre, but more like, I guess,
vibe?
Specifically, and besides vibe, I'm just thinking more of like the idea of me being very deliberate in what I chose to do. Like I made sure that I was in bed at a certain time, and I made sure to hydrate, and I made sure to
very
do my
disciplined.
vocals. Very disciplined. That's the word. I wanted to stay within the jazz discipline of knowing that I could go outside the box a little bit, but really stay within the zone of being a professional, showing up on time, consistently being there. If my word was my bond or is my bond, I'm going to stick to it. And that was very important to me, and still is to this day. If I tell you, Jim, that I'm going to do something, you can almost, hang the moon on it.
Yeah, that you're going to be there and you're going to show up and get it done. And that's key. That's something that not a lot of people know about or follow, that you really have to do that in any line of work or anything in life. You really should be a person of your word to the best of your ability, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's important to always have a contract so there's no confusion. And that's something, bringing it into, this new space of this, world of, you had mentioned in the beginning about NFTs or potentially blockchain or Web3. It's really important that, you follow a consistency. I know, Jim, we talked about being here. You sent, all of the, instructions ahead of time, and we were able to use them so we can provide your Levity family with an exceptional experience. There might not have been that, there was already a trust there with you and me. So I knew we were doing it on I guess you'd say like a virtual handshake. Now, if you and I were going to be going into a business, we might choose to enter into an NDA or a non-disclosure agreement, because there might be some industry specific things that you or I might share with each other that we would like to keep under wraps, until we might decide to, work with a partnership agreement. So we can both agree that there might be different levels of the business that we take, and the expectations that when finances come in, how is that going to be divvied up? And so the idea of contracts, I think, are really important. But moreover, a contract is only as strong as your word when you say you're going to do something.
That's so very, very true. Absolutely right. And, a lot of people, they don't realize that. And then they get to a little trouble and the water gets a little murky, and then they try to figure things out later and scramble. And that's not necessarily, you got to dot the I's and cross those T's as best as possible. Got a cool photo here of you with Janice Dickinson.
Oh, this was
happy moment.
She was the original supermodel. If anybody who is here is, maybe more of a certain age, if I will say that, and I don't mind telling the Levity family.
A seasoned veteran.
I am 54 years old, and I am only now coming into where my life is. So people say, oh, well, it's older at a certain time, or you're over by this age, or if you don't do this by this age,
that's all
nonsense. Wipe that out. That's total nonsense. Janice Dickinson, she was at this time, and still is, she's got moxie, she's fun. She was someone who would tell you what she thinks. She still does. And I like that about her. That's I guess the New Yorker in me. Like, if something's not really going right, just tell me straight up. And we had such fun when we were together. And she was someone who I realized, like, you can be who you are. Like, unexcusable. You don't need to make any excuses for who you are. And she didn't. And I think every little bit of me along the way has taken it's almost like my experience has been this life of a buffet. It's going to be interesting, Jim, what part of my life you are. Are you the appetizer part of the buffet? Are you the entree part of the buffet? Are you the dessert part of the buffet? Remains to be seen, because I have a feeling with all the comments and seeing this, live on in perpetuity, the conversations. That would be, okay, so I have a question for anybody who's watching. Do you think Jim, if he was on the buffet for you in your life, is he the appetizer buffet for you, the entree buffet for you, or the dessert buffet for you? I want to read these comments.
I like that. The thing about a buffet is you can take a little of each and put it on your plate, because it's a buffet versus a sit down.
Are you saying that you're a little bit of all of it? So there might be a little bit of Jim that's in each one of those?
Okay. Exactly. Yes. I'm a Libra, so I'm balance and harmony. So I'm a little of all of that. As long as we're all having a good time and it's harmonious and balanced, take a little appetizer, enjoy the entree. We're working towards the dessert. See? It's all in how you look at it, right? It's all in how you look at it. This is a cool shot too. Look at this. Talk about segues.
Okay, so this is a fun one. I was working with Nickelodeon. This was a show. It was called Innie and Outie, and it was one of the first stop motion animated shows that they did, where the belly buttons were animated. And my character was the shush lady. And it's these two kids, Innie and Outie, that they were in a movie and they were talking, and it was really stop motion. And then at some point the shush lady stands up, and this is me, and I'm shh. And the funny thing is, Jim, I'm in a competitive trivia game, and still to this day, I still am the shush lady, because some of the team, they get a little loud, and if they have the right answer, competitive trivia, you gotta be really quiet, or you gotta write it down, because when other teams think that you might be of the smartest team in the room, they'll start paying attention to the rumblings of things that you might say with your other team members. So I never stopped being the shush lady, from Nickelodeon to competitive trivia. It's still the same thing.
That is funny. Here's another great shot from the Nickelodeon days.
That's cool, the Innie and Outie characters. And it turned out it was before Adult Swim type of thing. So this was a little more, even though Innie and Outie, they were in like in the movie theater, the boy comes over and reaches over to kind of give her a peck on the side. And she's like, oh, very, very kind of PG-13. And, so silly
That's
stuff.
A lot of fun, right?
Yeah. And the lips right there on the bottom of that picture, the lips in that one, that's the actual sticky portions that they had around our belly buttons, so they could take and then leave them for the stop motion.
Oh, wow.
So a little I guess token from set, if you will.
flying high,
Yeah,
literally.
this is it.
This is
This
cool.
was, I was lucky enough one time during my like, my corporate world to be able to tour facilities. Now, this is something that doesn't seem as exciting to other people because it's fun being involved in the arts. But for me, when I meet my clients who are looking to share a marketing message and they bring someone like me in who's a musician who helps them ultimately in the end, and someone who understands marketing, in a good 3.5 minutes, we're going to be able to share a message. And if you understand a little bit about pop culture and you were, I guess, influenced by the Ramones, you can share a good message in about 2 minutes. And when American Airlines had absorbed US Air, they
Hmm.
had a number of us go out and share with the like the population and also the employees, and understanding that the I guess takeover of American Airlines with US Air, and we toured a facility, and we toured the US Air facilities, and they allowed us to look at what it was like being in a plane without the seats, and then they also offered for us to be able to stand up and take a photograph inside this engine while it was here. And I'll tell you, I've never ridden in a plane since with the without the respect for everybody that it takes to make sure that this thing, this piece of metal, stays in the air and gets us to our loved ones safely.
It's
It's
incredible.
deep
Yeah.
amount of respect for sure.
Every time I'm on, a flight, I'm doing the same thing. I'm like, this is an extraordinary situation, especially when the pilot comes on and says, okay, we've reached the altitude of 35,000 feet. We're over the ocean. Sit back and enjoy the peanuts. I'm like, what? How'd
Yeah,
this happen?
yeah.
It's cool stuff. Here's another great shot.
Oh, this is great. I love percussive instruments, and this is a Gibson. At the time, I was sponsored by Gibson, and that's my Gibson behind. Looks very similar to maybe yours in the background that you have there. And this is
That's
a
right. Yeah.
1950s lap steel. And in my one hand, in my left hand, I'm holding a metal bar, and in my right hand, I'm holding a pick. And it allows you to percussively play and move up the fretboard and change the tone of the instrument and really play around. I love the idea of texturally adding sounds to something to move the emotion of the moment. And strategically, the suitcase behind me had not only my band name in it, but that's where I would throw all of my percussion instruments in there and all of my props, if you will, in the suitcase. So on tour, it would be easy. I would pick up my suitcase, put it on stage. There's the band name, and when I popped it open, all of my costumes and props and things would be in the suitcase. It's an old, very blues musician way of touring.
That's a really nice outfit you're wearing too. All the multicolors. That's beautiful.
This is a good mix between fashion and music. I was working with this designer at the time, and she created this, and her name was Kim Hicks, and it was a reversible outfit. And I traded with her at the time. I was her house model, and I would trade time with being a model for her giving me pieces in my wardrobe that I then could wear up on stage. And Bergdorf Goodman carried her clothes. She was one of the there are a few designers that still do that old couture way of designing, where there's hand stitching in pieces, where it's made specifically for that person's body. Again, a couture's way of working in fashion. And I still to that day have this dress. And I have to tell you, it's probably time I put it back on and see if it still fits.
That's amazing. Yes, that you still have it. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything like it. It's really, really beautiful. You love feathers too, I know. And that's a
Yeah,
great shot.
this is a really fun shot. This photograph. I loved, and I still love working with photographers. And photographers, I understand shapes, composition, place, where to put. I feel like if I'm someone's muse, I'll start with a bit of a palette, and then I'll start to move. And then if they want me to do something else, I become their clay. And so working with, I feel like maybe if I had a totem animal, or I'm something, I probably think I was a bird in some sense. I'm not sure what kind of bird I would be. I don't think a peacock flies. I imagine if I was a bird, I would have some form of flight, but I don't know if you can choose that when you say I'm a cat or I'm a fish, or I don't know if you can choose which one you are, but Some might say I'm a shark, so I don't know if that really has anything to do with feathers, but
And you've had an opportunity to work with a shark,
yeah,
one
yes,
that we see on television.
many times,
Yeah.
yes. I've had the opportunity to work with two sharks. I've had a chance to work with Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban was one of our speakers at Miami NFT Week, and he interviewed on stage. They did a fireside chat with Angela Antony, a young gal who he had invested in her. She went to Harvard and she started a business that you played a game, and in playing this game, it helped you and a potential employer see what kind of employee you were going to be for their organization, so you didn't find yourself, or moreover, an employer would not have the wrong employee in that position. So she started her institution. It's called Scoutable. And Mark Cuban and her, they were on stage. We had them as fireside chat speakers together at Miami NFT Week. And I recently was able to work with Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary. He was at a web conference called WebX, or Web3 Expo, in Las Vegas. And he came to our private investors dinner, and we had a great time. His personality is gracious, both personalities, both these gentlemen, kind, loving, they're good listeners. I think on TV, that quick-witted, get to the point, make it happen is, made for television, because you want to keep things moving. They're both very patient, very kind, funny, very honorable, and definitely have a lot of integrity. And that working with two sharks and seeing how they were able to navigate real life is inspiring.
That's so fantastic. That's so cool. You've had an opportunity to really come across a lot of different people and personalities and so much more over the years. I think that's fantastic. Take a look at this shot too.
Oh, this one, Jim, this is a fun one. This is the very first fashion show that I did in New York City. And by the way, I'm holding my head because I had walking the runway, I had a violin on my head. So here I am coming to New York City. I'm a musician. I get pulled to do my very first fashion show. I had to take that darn violin off my head at the end of the show. See, the musical note is kind of a bra over the top of that white unitard. And next to me, the other model, she's wearing a musical note on her head. That's Patricia Vaughn. Patricia Vaughn, she was one of the first Victoria's Secret supermodels. But what she did is she was the girl who did all of the staging and the fit for them. So when you think of all the Victoria's Secret supermodels, they don't always show up to set the stage and do the points when you're walking down the stage or trying on the outfits. That was her job. And so we were both these bread and butter models. She's since gone on to this really, really very successful musical career. She's Patricia Vaughn, and she's Robert Rodriguez's sister. And Robert Rodriguez is the filmmaker who did El Mariachi, Spy Kids, Sin City. And you actually can see her in a few of those. I think you can see her in like 4 Weddings and a Funeral. And in Sin City, she's the Zorro girl with the mask. And so there we were 30 years ago as fresh-faced models on the runway. And now we're both doing fantastic things. And she came back this past year. She's been getting into doing animation and stop motion animation with her music and cartoons. And she has won an award. She won a Cannes Film Festival short animation award. And she had shown it at one of our events. And then she recently won a Cannes Film Festival short with her other sister in it, because I think the Rodriguez family, they must have 7 brothers and sisters. And she came to NFT VIP and she was on stage and talked to our audience that were there to learn as filmmakers how perhaps they could start their career or use current tools or old school tools to advance their creative voice, and how might that look for them by being able to talk to someone and learn from someone that's actually doing it in the business.
That is so cool, huh? That is really something special. Here's another cool shot. Look at this one. Psychedelic Sisters of Love.
This was one
Talk about levity.
I know, this is levity right here. This was one of my first gigs that I had playing music. I was going to music school. There was a gentleman who came to come clean our carpets because the penny saver, we called, and we found
Oh, remember
inexpensive
the
guy
penny
with his
saver?
own.
I used
You
to
remember the
deliver
penny
those as a
savers?
kid. I used to
Remember that?
deliver those as a kid.
And he saw me and the other gal who was my roommate at the time. And he said, "What are you ladies doing?" And we're like, "We're singers. We're here to learn how to be singers." And he said, "Well, I have this band and we're looking for 2 backup singers and we're doing like a battle of the bands. And we really feel like you ladies will be a good addition." And here we are in one of our gigs playing, and of course I've got the Love Child flowers there, and I've got the tambourine in my hand and playing it. We won the Battle of the Bands, and we got to go on tour with Poison and Warrant in the state of Texas for a number of dates. And then we got me and the other backup singer, we got picked up to go out on the road with Poison and Warrant for future shows. And that really taught me again about timing, consistency, showing up, making sure that we were part of the employed force, if you will. Like, we didn't really take advantage of some of the things people think are fun out on the road, because for me, I didn't want to blow my voice out.
Right.
I really wanted to be able to get my sleep and be able to, have really have longevity. I wanted to be able to show up at the next day, at the next town, the next gig, and be able to perform the way I did for the last 3 or 4 or 10 shows.
That's fantastic. You mentioned some of those names, and look at this
Look
shot.
at that. Oh my gosh, look at this. So that's me, the tall redhead right there. And that's Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. Next to him in the blue jacket, that is Mark Lopresti. You might know Mark Lopresti he is a consistent guest host. He speaks about traditional finance and data, and he is always on. You'll see him on CNN, CNBC, Fox Business. Again, his name's Mark Lopresti. And then on the end, that's John D. Domenico. John D. Domenico is...
he was a guest on our show. Incredible
No.
impressionist. Yeah, he was a guest. You have to see that episode in the archives. He
Jim,
was hilarious.
Do you know, I have been a friend of John D. Domenico's for 30 years.
Have you really?
He was one of the first jobs in New York City we were put on together as thespians, as actors and musicians. And we were hired to do an event where I was Ginger and he was Skipper. And it was this person's private party that they were having. And it was all about like Fantasy Island. But for some reason, why they had the Gilligan's Island cast members there on Fantasy Island, it kind of was but it made sense. And all we did the whole gig for the whole day was walk around and sing with the other two, with Marianne and Gilligan. I don't know that any of us.
Did you say Gilligan?
No, shut up. You guys.
This came from Bob Denver, who played Gilligan, his wife, Dreama, who's been a guest on our show twice. Aloha, Jim, Dreama Denver.
That is
cool, huh?
so
There's
fun.
Gilligan.
Jim, that is funny. And I can't believe you know John D. Domenico. I mean, he's really, his impersonation.
Well, when you're a friend of his, you're a friend of like 1,000 other people, because he can turn into just about anybody. He's terrific, spot on.
Yeah, he was our host at NFT VIP with Jimmy Buffett at Margaritaville. And John and I put together this private investors event. And on top of the foundation room, it's a members only club. John's a member. This is us with, if you're into the Web3 movement, this is us with Ryan Carson. Ryan Carson is one of the original, I guess, maybe co-founders of Moonbirds. Moonbirds is an NFT project, and he has since split off and he's created his own fund called the 121G Fund, where he's able to then fund other projects. And I love it when people in the business support other people in the business. And if they like them, much like the people in Shark Tank, if they find a fit and they really like working with them, then they might be able to infuse money into their passions.
Look at this shot. Wow.
This one's fun, right? This one is if you notice the chair was designed by a macabre artist. His name is H.R. Giger. And H.R. Giger, there was a coffee table book about celebrities sitting in his chair. And H.R. Giger might be best known for the influence on the movie Aliens being created with the kind of vibe of H.R. Giger's work. And he is, I think I would like to, call him the grandfather of this kind of style of dark. And, again, I like working with artists. This was just a red light that was on my hair. I'm a natural redhead. Sometimes when you throw these other lights on my hair, it pops off.
Blonder or
Right. Like right now, it probably looks a little more strawberry compared,
It
or
does,
strawberry
yeah.
blonde
Hmm.
than this one. And I'm wearing a full latex catsuit. Awesome. Except when
Wow.
you start to sweat.
How long does it take to get in and out of a suit like that?
Well, it depends on how frustrated you are, because if you're frustrated getting in, it takes longer.
Yeah,
And if you're frustrated, oh, and getting out of it could take longer
could
too.
be
But
longer, and if
it's
the humidity's high, that could be rough.
and if you've been jumping around on stage performing in it, your shoes are full of what was sweat down your body. It was
People only know what, we go through to
oh,
entertain and inspire.
silly.
It's
You'd have to powder yourself first before putting this on. This is one of my favorite instruments. This is a 12-string Rickenbacker. I recorded many times with, I'm going to call it a her, this instrument. And a 12-string Rickenbacker, you might have heard this in some music like the Birds, that sound
Oh,
of the more
yes.
jangly 12 strings. The,
Right.
the challenge with this Rickenbacker is she sounded beautiful. She was great in the studio. You could get a nice bridge out of her if you're recording. But because the strings in itself, there was something about you have to be one of those kind of guitar players that you like to noodle and tune while
Yeah.
you're playing it. That generally isn't me. I like it to be set. I like to pick it up. I like to play it and then put it back down. So she was great for a bridge or two, and then we'd have to tune her up or a string or two on her. But the Birds, I imagine, wow, when they were recording with this instrument, Rickenbackers are unlike any other sound you can hear.
That's so cool. You've done hair and makeup too, right? Just saw some of these shots of you at work.
Yeah, I happen to have been, I like working
Multi-talented
in
person.
front of and behind the camera.
Yeah.
And I've worked with one of my favorite makeup artists is her name is Robin Watson, and she has been a big part of the Rachel Ray show.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there are times when you're a musician that I always wanted to stay in the creative world, and Robin then since got married to Peter Hamilton, which is a sound man. So she's now
I wonder if
Robin
we
Watson
saw her.
Hamilton.
We went to the Rachel Ray show there in the Chelsea Piers where they film it, and saw some of the staff and all. And I wonder if she was there. It's a few years ago, pre-pandemic, but it was fantastic. What a tightly run ship, that show. Everything
Yep.
very, and they're very interactive with the audience, and just really fantastic.
Yeah, it was important for me to stay involved in the craft of curating a great moment. And part of creating a great moment is, Robin really helped me understand that I could participate in helping share that love and the message. And so she brought me into working on the Rachel Ray show. She also brought me into working with brides. These are some of the fun things at events that I've done with Art Basel, doing some things with some of my friends. We did a big roller skating party, the Doodles down at the bottom picture with the cowboy hat, and a really good friend of mine, Harvey Katz. He is my go-to BFF when it comes to doing art shows. He lets me dress him. He shows up on time. He is the perfect arm candy to bring around for art shows because he's charming, and ladies and guys, everyone likes him, artists like him. And he's also someone that I know is always going to have my back. And I like having friends who, will.
This is a nice shot.
This is fun. This is in Long Island. My girlfriend.
It's out in the Hamptons.
This is in the Hamptons. It's actually in Calverton. This is the lavender farm called Lavender by the Bay. My girlfriend, Suzanne Zales, gave me this beautiful teacup, and the lavender was in bloom. And I grabbed my other girlfriend, Cherie Christmas, who was a big, at the time, she was a big QVC host. And we went and we just decided to have tea and sit with the bees in the lavender field. Why not?
Yeah.
She took a photograph.
Why not? That's
why
the
not?
key. Is why not? If you can do things in life, do them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This
is fun.
This is cool. That's on the Brooklyn Bridge, huh?
You're a true New Yorker. You know this. Mm-hmm. So this artist, this photographer, her name is Kina Wicks. And she had this vision of escaping New York City. She wanted to take some photographs, kind of breakfast at Tiffany's with the umbrella going on to the Brooklyn Bridge. And we had see all the people in the background. The shot wasn't really working because you have to be low to get the Brooklyn Bridge, the characteristic high. And there was this construction, which is the wall that I'm on. And I looked at her and I go, I think it's probably going to be a better shot if I can frame myself there. So why don't I climb the wall? And she goes, what? And here I am. Now, mind you, I'm wearing a pair of Manolo Blahniks. I'm wearing Morgan Le Fay skirt. These are all couture designers. And I'm wearing Brunello Cucinelli cashmere. And I'm climbing a construction wall by the Brooklyn Bridge just so we could get that view of being a little out of the audience and still getting that visual of the Brooklyn Bridge. And this photograph turned out fantastic.
Were the construction workers there that day?
I don't know that, but you can see there's one guy just in a little bit of the background. He's kind of turning around, and a few of the photographs, you had these people's faces. They were like, what are those people doing?
I was going to say, when they looked back at the week's work and what was done that particular day, productivity was enhanced for some reason. They got a lot more work done.
I don't know. You know, in New York City, we see so many things. We're not even bothered. We just keep working, right? We want to make it happen.
You just keep doing it, right? Exactly. And that's what it is. That's what it's about. If not, then you just get on a plane and leave the city for a while, and you sort of just hang out in the Dead Sea in Israel.
I know. So if anyone who has not had the chance to go over Israel, I would like to tell you, go. Take a trip to Israel. I had never thought of going before. I got invited to go, and it was life-changing for me. I had the opportunity to tour all around from Tel Aviv, up and down, I guess maybe Caesarea. I had a chance to sing at Caesarea. I had a chance to see a kibbutz, spend the night, in a Bedouin tent, live like people lived in Israel. Had a chance to have Shabbat dinner with the family and talk about race, religion, politics in non-heated ways, almost like you and I are having this conversation now. It was one of those times in my life that I felt like, could I live someplace else other than New York and Texas and the States, right? Or maybe Miami. I really like those three places, especially Austin, Texas, a lot.
Growing place.
I could see myself living in Tel Aviv. And I could also, you know what, Jim, I know this might be shocking to you. I could see myself living in a kibbutz and being part of a commune. And, I'll be the girl who waters the carrots, and I would be very happy.
That's great, isn't it? Absolutely. Whatever you can do, because you're big about inspiring people. You really like to empower others and inspire them to take on the challenges, to forge forward. When we are down and out, like the pandemic has really changed a lot of things in many different ways, and some people have, just stopped and sort of regrouped and refreshed and rebooted. It's been an incredible opportunity and a wonderful time to be able to do that. Take a look at your life, see what you've done, what you'd really like to do next chapter going forward. Have you found that you've done that as well during this time of great pause? Have you stopped, looked, said, okay, I've done that, I've enjoyed that, but this is what I want to do going forward. Has that been a time for you to do that reflective look at life too?
I think I check in often with myself. How am I feeling? In the past few days, I personally felt, some things that just make me feel a little unsettled. And a girlfriend of mine told me about being able to, use a process through her massage therapist. So I use that tiny little tool, like a tune-up tool. So I do check in with myself often, check in with my friends. I try to be honest about my daily activities or weekly or my goals. But moreover, during the pandemic, I happened to be in a situation where, working with some of my big box media clients, I was brought in as a remote studio broadcast producer. So I was someone who I didn't mind getting tested early. I didn't mind testing often. And it was a personal choice. I chose to get vaccinated. It was just my personal choice to do that so I could continue working. Yeah. And much like we're doing here, right? You have a camera, we've got a ring light, and you've got the staging set behind you. A lot of guests, like in those previous pictures, Mark Lupresti, when you go into your CNNs or CNBCs or Fox or Bloomberg or Yahoo, you have a whole studio with makeup and hair and lighting, and the stage is set. During the pandemic, the studios weren't open, but TV was still rolling. So some of those guests were still willing to go on air and talk about whatever their expertise was, mostly in the financial markets. And they brought me in to help them understand what you and I are doing here. Not only the web, the light, the makeup, the setup. And the challenge in that was that in theory, I would go in and help them. I would test before I came in, make sure that, I wasn't, had been exposed. and would go into their homes. And in theory, I made this like paint by numbers checklist. First you do this, then you do this, then you do that. And in theory, it was to eventually allow them to do it on their own. The caveat is people's wives or husbands were home also working, and their children, if they had them, were also studying from home. So these setups couldn't be like your beautiful studio that might be able to stay that way. They had to be able to be put up and put back down. And, you know, if you're someone who's really good with content on camera, being a producer or being a technician might be something that short circuits you. So you really do need a team of people, or you need to have that well-rounded, think fast on your feet. So as much as I would like to have said that I kind of set them and then I kind of forgot about it, it didn't work out that way. I was hired on a daily, weekly basis to go out and do this and then capture news content out in the world. And again, our teams have to be safe and make that happen. So I was able to continue on with being passionate and creative and helping others do the pandemic. And then I said, you know, I really want to be a part of something new, something fresh. When we all come out of this, you know, what's the next phase going to be? And I had invested in some cryptocurrency in 2017, and then started purchasing NFT projects to support creatives that I knew and those that I had been introduced to. And understanding and diving deep into blockchain, cryptocurrency, Web3, and the technology behind it, made it just, I mean, I was like, it was like being a kid in the candy store. No, this is everything, Jim. I had built recording studios. Here I was, someone who had been on the road, who had worked with musicians. I was a fashion model from conception to completion with couturiers. And I'm seeing creatives oftentimes maybe not get their due financially. Now with Web3, wait a minute, with blockchain, the idea of generational wealth and legacy, and creatives can maintain some level of control that they can pass on from generation to generation.
Right.
I realized, wow, I could really move the needle. And then on top of it, this was at the time, it was a very, I'm going to use, I don't know, I don't like to use like nicknames and stuff, but it was more male dominated.
Sure.
So in this new world order, if I could help shift and shift the narrative a little bit, because I know a lot of really smart, a lot of very passionate, very forward thinking, curiosity seekers that are women. And why not be able to elevate women's voices and then help people like my friends that maybe had retired a little early from the pandemic? Chronologically, they might have been of the age to retire, but they really weren't physically ready to retire, but they did. And now going into it a year and a half in, they wanted to be able to come back into the workforce and work. And they really wanted to be a part of something that was new and fresh. Where do they start? So that's where I realized education, and then being involved. Our youth division, we work with NFT Kids magazine based out of Seoul, South Korea. We're very global with what we do, with me and my strategic partners, with NFT NYC and Digital Distro and See My NFT. We've built our own blockchain and our own marketplace. And we've realized now as a kid, and to no fault of anyone who ever said this to me, when they said, oh, well, you know, if you are a creative, you're never going to be able to really eat, or you're going to be always struggling. And I told some people early on that if I stopped creating, I would die. Just internally, I would. I mean, physically, I would still be alive because I'm a healthy person, but emotionally and spiritually,
too, right?
And I didn't want to give up on that. So to me, if I see a young person really passionate about being an artist, drawing, creating, you know, music, creating maybe, their animations, if you will, and that I see that it's always good when you have children in the business or in some type of business that you have someone who's a mentor, someone they trust. And I see families coming together, moms and dads helping with the social media side, now allowing their children to be booked at conferences and speak. I always like being able to help a young creative really bring their trusted community around them that's going to protect them, make sure that they're making the right moves, and making sure that they're okay. That, you know, I always have an extra little, you know, security eye about, you know, around kids when I'm around them. And there's a big group of us in the Web3 community. We're very protective about artists in general, our community in general. We're very welcoming. We like having a diverse and equitable type of inclusion. And being inclusive doesn't mean being exclusive. But, you know, I think you get those spidey senses if they start tingling if something's not right. And all of the kid artists that I know that I'm working with, I generally know their parents or their managers, and being able to work with them, I have empathy for, let's make sure they take their breaks, and I always like trying to follow a little bit more of the union rules when it comes to kids, because I
Hmm.
think that's really for their mental, a big part of their mental well-being, and having a life work balance is very important. Creating again, this new narrative is so easy to spend so much time, and burnout is real.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It really, really is. And you got to take time for yourself. You got to be able to breathe and sort of regroup when you need to, and go off. My one of my go-to places, we talk about it a lot, is the ocean. Growing up on the coast here, the ocean for me, with just the rhythm and the tide and the life force that it is, and the sun rises from it and sets in it, the sand, not necessarily during a hurricane, but still, even then, it recovers and it comes back and comes down, and it's just all part of the cycle of life. The ocean is a sort of like a go-to for me.
Yeah, me too. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it just I don't know what it is. There's just an energy that I get from the ocean. Um, and nature. I've been telling people during the course of the pandemic, if you think that the world is ending and everything you knew and loved is going away and everything's upside down, go to nature. Go outside. Go to nature, because the animals, the trees, the ocean. It has no idea about what's going on. This is a human thing that's happening. The squirrels are still scurrying for the nuts for the winter. The tide from the ocean still coming in. The trees and the flowers are still blooming. And the foliage is still there on the trees. Get out and get with nature, and that'll be very settling for you and balancing for you. And it'll remind you that not everything is ending or the whole world is coming apart. The earth is still here spinning. It's what we do with it that makes a difference.
Yeah, I try to remember to do this myself. And when I hear a friend having to have that, someone comes to me, say, I'm feeling a little off balance, or I'm having anxiety, or I'm starting to feel that dark come in. And if I can tell that they're right at that point, I'll tell them, I say, hey, take your shoes off, go walk in grass, let your feet feel the earth, ground yourself, just feel that. And just for a moment, even some people say, oh, we'll just take a breath. But sometimes we're so tight that when someone says, oh, relax, you can't. So
No.
I don't want to say that to someone. If you can take your shoes off, just feel the ground underneath you and take a moment, a pause, and hear the bird chirp,
Hmm.
or really a little off in the distance, maybe the beep, beep, beep. But you're feeling the dimension of sound. And just in that moment, even if it's for 10 seconds, you instantly grounded yourself. Then you can go back and you'll find that you won't be in a state of as much anxiety. And
No.
then you might be able to make a better decision to reach out and make a call to a trusted source that you already have in your arsenal, or then look for something that's going to continue to ground you with all the tools that we have available.
Exactly. Sounds like another one of those life hacks from How To with Julie Sue. How's that for a segue,
Look at that.
huh?
You're so funny. I'm the daughter of a magician that rarely
Are you
shared his
really?
secrets.
I
I
love
am.
magicians. I used to have a magic
Yes.
set when I was a kid. I love magicians, and I love ventriloquists. And you don't see as many of the ventriloquists anymore. I used to have the Charlie McCarthy doll.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll tell you, the idea of being a performer and ventriloquist, that's something to me. Like, that always played with my head. I'm like, that's, of
An
course, then
interesting,
you're going to
right.
watch, right? You still watch.
Yeah.
But the reason that I started How To with Julie Sue is because I'm the daughter of a magician that rarely, rarely shared his secrets. Actually, I'm going to be honest, he never shared the secrets. If we wanted to know how any magic trick was done, he wasn't going to lie to us, but we had to go look it up. And we had 2 sets of vintage magic books. And I had to go to those magic books and do my own research and learn how the magic trick was completed by him. So I made the effort. Now it's almost like, I'm going to go opposite of my dad, and I do like sharing how-to secrets. I do like telling a girl, have a nice toolbox. And I mean a real toolbox in your house, not Barbie tools. you have a pair of needle nose pliers and a level and a tape and picture hangers and, have these tools in your, so I took all of those tiny little town dreams, moved them to New York City, just like the song, right? And I love sharing how-to secrets with people. And I'm not going to force you to go to a library and go look them up. I might inspire you to learn a little more, and then you can do your own research. I'll give you enough to be able to make you, stimulate you, come in. And I have to thank my dad for, forcing the hand at the time. We didn't have the internet. If we wanted to, Dad, how do you spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? He'd be like,
ask Julie Andrews.
No, exactly. Ask her, because she'll give you a spoonful of sugar and it'll help the medicine go down, But he would always say, you look it up in the dictionary. So now we have Google.
Now you have Google.
Yeah, if he was still with us, he'd tell me to ask Jim Masters.
What would be one or two of the, I love that. What would be one of two recent hacks that you discovered that you've shared that maybe you want to share with our viewers now that are kind of cool, or some of your favorite hacks that you've developed and have shared with the world?
Okay, so life hacks, let me tell you. Okay, so let's say you have your favorite shirt and you're outside working in the yard and you accidentally give yourself a cut and you get a little blood on your shirt and you're like, oh no, try and nab it. It's ruined, but it's not. Hydrogen peroxide, take a little test sample on something on the underside, like maybe, maybe the inside seam or something. But usually if you can catch it right away, hydrogen peroxide will bubble up any type of, blood on fabric. That's one of my go-to hacks. I even have in my laundry room. I have, I have hydrogen peroxide next to all of my laundry soap, and also in my medicine cabinet. That's kind of one of my big hacks that I have in my life that I use often. Hydrogen peroxide.
That's incredible, huh? I mean, just have that there. So how did you create the whole how-to with Julie Sue idea? Because that takes time to do that as well.
I love 1970s jingles, and I think
oh my God, so do I. Absolutely, yes.
And so I worked
jingles. Yeah,
I miss them too. And I worked with my friends from Nickelodeon who had a show. His name is Billy James Coben. He's a creative director, and he had a show on Nickelodeon called Gullah Gullah Island. And we created a fun jingle, and it just started to rhyme. My middle name is Sue, and I really wanted to start a space where people could go and learn or share about just really easy things around the house, how they can make magic around their house. Like, as simple as what happens when a light bulb breaks off in the socket. People say, well, put a potato in it and turn it. But if there's really no piece of that light that's hanging down, if you put the potato in to turn it, it's not going to turn. And, you don't want to put anything metal in a light socket. So you always want to turn off electricity before you do it. And one of my other favorite life hacks is you can take, and we all have that junk drawer with a million little rubber bands in it. You've got a wooden spoon. You can take the wooden spoon, wrap those rubber bands around and create a nice fat rubber band ball. You can put that right in the light socket that's there. And because it touches where the metal is, and if that rubber ball or rubber bands is large enough, it touches that. And then when you turn it, you actually can get the torque and you get the light base out, and you're using something in your junk drawer. And you're able to, be safe in the process. I always recommend make sure you do turn off electricity before you're going to put anything in a light socket. But that's another fun one about, little things along the way that you learn, just in your home that I don't know. I guess maybe I've had one or two light bulbs break off and potatoes.
You've had a lot of light bulb moments.
I have a lot of light bulb moments. Potatoes don't work. They could, but not in every situation.
No, only if they're mashed with a little butter, some gravy. Then they really work.
I do like a good mashed potato. Jim, was your mom a good mashed potato maker? Was your mom a good mashed potato maker?
She still is. Yeah, she still is. They sold their house in New York and they built a home in Florida. Mm-hmm. And mashed potatoes are one of the stars of the show. And I love my mother's mashed potatoes. Really, really good. Yeah.
Oh, I'm feeling them right now. So this is another fun life hack. So you're at a restaurant. You decide you're going to get something and you're not sure which side you're going to choose. Is it going to be the broccoli? Is it going to be the mashed potatoes? And you ask the server, hey, how are your mashed potatoes? They're like, oh, they're good. And you're like, are they as good as your mother's mashed potatoes?
Mm-hmm.
If there's a hesitation, order the broccoli.
Order the And for me, they're not a side. It's the Irish in me.
It's a whole meal.
They're a central figure in the situation.
Yeah. So
I love
that's
this
mine.
shot too. We talk about love and levity. This is a great shot. Julie
Thank
sharing some love
you.
with the world.
Oh, I love this. I was in Aspen and the light was just right, and I took a quick selfie. And I think this was après ski right outside of Cloud. I believe this was Cloud 9. No, yeah, right off of the Cloud 9 area, or Bonnie's Run. I've forgotten which one this is, but this was a great light. Oh, look at this. You know who this is. If you've watched your show long enough.
It's our buddy.
This is our buddy, Wayne Scott Luca. You know, we met at an NFT conference. I fell in love with him immediately. And we became fast friends. Of course, our paths had never crossed. I don't know why, because he had worked with Janet Jackson and Tina Turner, and I was traveling around the same time, and we were working with different musical artists. And then with him being a stylist, I'm just shocked we had never worked together. I had even worked with some photographers that he had worked with on different days, much like our relationship. And you know, John DiDomenico, you know, how did we not meet before now? So Wayne Scott, he was one of our speakers at NFT VIP at Margaritaville with Jimmy Buffett. And he talked about fashion, metaverse fashion, NFTs. And then he released one of his NFTs with a Tina Turner dress that he had styled. Tina Turner had taken it on the road. And it was a dress that was one of the last pieces of clothing that Versace had literally hand stitched this piece that she wore on tour, and Wayne Scott was figuring out a way to fractionalize ownership and create an NFT for people to be able to own a piece of history. And you know, really an iconic piece of history with Tina Turner and Versace, and of course, celebrity fashion stylist Wayne Scott Lucas.
He's terrific. Yeah, for those who are joining us, he was a guest on our show, and we've had an extraordinary conversation with him as well. Lots of laughs, and he's a big supporter of our show, big fan of it, and we appreciate that. And there's probably, you know, a lot of people that we both know in these respective industries that we're in. It's really a small world, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's an absolutely, and it's getting, you know, smaller and smaller, which I think is quite amazing as well. What are, you know, people might be saying, you know, she's mentioning this thing NFT. Are those call letters for a TV or radio station or something? Tell everybody what an NFT is and how that works, because you're very involved in that world.
NFT is an acronym. It's an acronym for non-fungible token. Fungible just means copyable. So it's not a copyable token. And, you know, it's really a fancy way around saying basically proof of ownership. When you use something that could be the technology behind an NFT, it's really a proof of ownership. So you're going to hear people talking about NFTs and art or pictures of, you know, animals or people's artwork. And you're like, well, but I'm not really an artist, or I'm not really interested in collecting digital art, or I don't really want to collect that piece of historical fashion context. Totally understand, right? This is something that we as collectors, someone who likes to collect art, which I do, I like to support artists. I will always do that. And to me, I'm the girl that if I'm in the subway and someone's busking and playing music, I'm going to throw some money in their guitar case. So for me, being able to buy someone's digital art and as proof of ownership, it's in an NFT. That means nobody else can copy it. It's mine. And I can show because it's on the blockchain, which the blockchain is just a group of numbers. And this NFT is a section of those group of numbers that has an identifiable piece on the front end, an identifiable piece on the back end, hence the name blockchain of numbers. This NFT lives there, and I'm the owner of that set of numbers, which is defined as that piece of artwork. So how, as someone who says, Julie, I'm going to go back. I don't want art. I don't care about being a part of something. So let's talk about where NFTs are a big part of our lives that a lot of us might not completely understand. If you like to go to Starbucks and you're someone who goes often and you're part of their loyalty rewards program, going forward, they're using blockchain technology And it's an NFT blockchain technology that they have redefined as something called a stamp. But it's not fungible. It's your loyalty rewards program. That number lives in the blockchain along these other chains of numbers because you own it. That's your proof of ownership. And when you go in to buy your next mocha chai latte or whatever you like, then they know that that's you and it's ownership. It allows them as a company to streamline that portion of their business. Or let's even talk about where this really works for us as consumers. Mark Cuban has a prescription drug company called Cost Plus Drugs, I believe. Do your own research. I don't have anything to do with the company. This is not like this. This is not advice to go, changing your medical providers by any means, because when it comes to prescription medications, some things are really expensive. The formulary on Cost Plus Drugs or Mark Cuban's blockchain prescription drug. It's a very small formulary right now. But as people start to use it and they open it up, we know things that are really expensive. I can't wait till one day diabetic strips and supplies are able to be bought at a lesser rate. I mean, medications, when you go outside the United States, are far less than what they are here in the United States. And so many of us have to use it in a course of our care and our family's care. And the idea of using this blockchain technology, again, I go back, I'm an artist. I like using NFTs from the standpoint of, for me, if I'm releasing an album and I release it to you, and it's this album that is like a set of numbers on the blockchain, and then you decide, like all of a sudden I'm on Saturday Night Live, and that album that normally costs $20, now you can sell on the open marketplace for $200. In that smart contract, I can have intellectual property royalties. So every sale in perpetuity, I can get a certain percentage. Mm-hmm. So I actually might, as a curator and someone who is a creative, make more money on a secondary sale or a third sale that happens for me being able to, and that's how I can create generational wealth and legacy. But let's jump back into regular normie world. California just passed legislation, again, talking about proof of ownership, that you can make the decision if you want to, if you would like your marriage certificate or your birth certificate to live on the blockchain. So you can make that decision now as this is legislation just came down maybe a month ago. So it's really interesting to see how companies are using it. Like you and me, I don't know, Jim, if you're old enough. I'm not quite old enough to have gone to Woodstock. I would have only been a year old at the time. But we get these ticket stubs. We take them, we save them, we put them in a scrapbook, and we might go back down memory lane and look at them. What we can do with NFTs is, what if I released my musical concert as a ticket? So someone came in, it's proof of ownership, right? That person has that ticket. They're coming in to see me play music. What if, again, let's say that I'm on Saturday Night Live and all of a sudden I blow up and they go back to that NFT. What if in that NFT, I've given someone the opportunity to come to my next concerts at a discount, or my new video is released on it? Or if I've really decided that working with a 501c3 is important for me, and I really want to have that philanthropic nature to me, I can have a portion of my IP go to an organization like Big Brothers and Big Sisters, or Dress for Success, or Heroes for Horses, or other institutions that help veterans with PTSD, things that are important to me, helping women get back in the workforce, helping children and helping veterans. Those are just my natural things that I like to be able to help. So we'll start seeing, like the Mavericks tickets. If you like basketball games, Mark Cuban, again, it's a ticket, proof of ownership. Yeah. You have it and it's yours, and it's being built on the blockchain. It's pretty wild to see how this new technology is going to be integrated into our daily lives, and we might not even understand that it is. And then when we start paying attention to it, we can go, aha, what if I want to build my business on the blockchain? How do I go about doing that? What if I want to come back into doing business again? How can I do that?
Very cool. Yeah. Wow. We've heard about Jenny on the block, but this is Julie on the block.
Boy, J-Lo, she's done some great things in her life, hasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dancer, musician, actress, so it'd be interesting. Let's, I challenge
branching
you, J-Lo.
out. Yeah.
Let's see where Jenny on the blockchain goes.
Right. Yeah. Right. Tell us about also, again, we're covering so many different things, the, how to with Julie Sue, the life hacks. We're talking about your incredible musical career, fashion, inspiration, NFT, Web3 as well. That's a whole other, tell us about that, what that is.
So people, you're going to hear, I always like bringing everything down back to, if I didn't know, right? So people are like, Web3, like,
What is
Jen,
all
what
this
the heck are you
about?
talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
So let's just bring it back. Web 1 was when we first had our first AOL, or our first, we could go on and we could read and write. So maybe we had, our Kindle or books were there. So we could think of Web 1 when we first came on the internet, with the beginning to read and write on the internet. Web 2 was the layer of allowing us to be reading, writing, and social. In the beginning, we had the chat rooms, or MySpace and Facebook and Meta and Instagram and Twitter, and now it's Snapchat and TikTok and all these other things. So that's Web 2. Web 3 allows us to read, write, have social, but also ownership, because it allows us to have this smart contract that we can write in a level of intellectual property if we want to. So when that product or project or whatever decides to go perhaps something that for sale, we then can always, as the curator, be able to collect on that for royalties in perpetuity. So the thing for me that's really exciting, I'll go back to normie world. Let's say that I amass a real estate empire and I decide to have children, and my children decide to have children. And I leave in my will that I only want this real estate empire to be sold on the blockchain, meaning a set of numbers, proof of ownership. That's where the title is going to live. That's where it is. But in that smart contract, that my heirs will always in perpetuity get a percentage of that sale, no matter how many times that real estate has been passed down from generation to generation to generation, is a big deal for the idea of family legacy. So we're going to start seeing institutions deploy and employ blockchain technology to streamline their businesses. It remains to be seen if those institutions will pass those savings on to consumers, and how easy it will be for us as consumers to use it without getting confused about, oh, I have to create a wallet and I have to be involved in cryptocurrency. Mr. Wonderful describes scaling mass adoption of this new Web3 space as being, first, wallets are really easy to use, super easy, like opening up a bank account. And with that, you have to know your customer. So besides it being super easy, we want it to be safe. And then besides it being safe, we have to pay attention that eventually regulation is going to come down. And that's really where it's going to be the trifecta. When that truly happens, we're going to see the technology scale in ways we don't even realize that we're using it.
That's really fascinating. What are some things that you're working on now, projects, things, whether it's in that world or just anything? What are some of the things you have coming up you're very excited about, Julie?
I have an institution, it's called NFT VIP, and it's a collective, and we work with strategic partners. I work with Digital Distro and See My NFT, and we are building a community of people that are currently using our blockchain and our back-end marketplace. It's super easy and safe. It allows people to have a wallet that all you do when you want to go buy something, if it's a ticket for an event, or if it's to purchase something, you get an email and your wallet's right there. You can use US dollars, you don't have to use crypto. And then we have our own marketplace that allows us to go back and then resell them if we want to. And then we have a whole triple check accounting on the back end, because we understand about, KYC, or know your customer. So I'm pretty excited about the strategic partnerships and how this is going to shake down. I also work with a number of big companies that are learning about how do they transition from that Web 2 world of reading, writing, and social. Then how do they create something in the Web 3 world? So I get to work as a consultant for larger big box brick and mortar companies to understand how to use the technology for good. Because if we can really use the technology to move the needle in that vein and use NFTs for good, we have really the opportunity for using a collective consciousness of thought leaders and curiosity seekers to drive this forward and then be able to make it happen. And other than that, I know it's time for me to get back and playing some music. So when I get back to New York City, I'll noodle around with some friends. I like to be rooted. I love being a part of horses and animals. And so I've shifted, and people say work-life balance. It's so easy for me to spend a lot of time in the Web3 world. It's important for me to go back to playing some music, doing something that's fun. You know, if anybody's ever been to New York City and you've gone and seen that show, the Blue Man Group, that,
Oh, yes,
that
sure.
that fan tail that I made for the peacock tail, that was, I came up with the idea, but the person who helped me understand that it's basically like a backpack. It has straps and a piece of leather. The person who did the first balding caps for the people in Blue Man Group,
Yeah.
we worked together and curated this peacock tail. And it's so funny because in New York City, you know, you don't always have a back room to pop out of. So but as the curtains would open up, I would be bent over like this. Let's see the camera right here. I would be bent over like this. So the peacock tail would be over me like this. And I'd be moving around. The peacock tail would move. And then I would like pop up. And there I would be on stage, almost like a, you know, the old school way of like fan dancers. But it would just be a way for me to enter the stage by already being on stage. It was a silly way of using
But
what
it's
I had.
cool. Yeah. What are some of those blessings and joys in your life that continue to propel you forward with all these incredible areas of living and experiences, you know, storyteller, art lover, travel guru, involved in NFT, executive producer, CEO, you know, all of the above, musician, performer. What are some of the things, those blessings and joys that you can look at and say, these are some of the reasons why I like to do what I do and inspire and connect and entertain and bring people together through those blessings and joys that you have in your life?
I'm going to take a paraphrase. This is not my saying. It's said by a creative director that I work with, Billy James Coben. He inspires me often on being able to curate a great message. And he had come up with the saying, put down the mouse and get out of the house. And it's important for me to participate in real life. And you'll hear that acronym often, IRL, to participate in real life activities, to work at trying to be present. Sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult to not have a million things on your brain and try to do a lot of things. I try to schedule in time to see a good friend for lunch. The fact that I was able to pull myself away because we had this scheduled, and meeting you and meeting all the rest of the Levity family that you have. This, to me, seeing the comments that come in the chat box, you know, hearing the questions that are asked, knowing that we're in this together. This is not a solo mission. We are not meant to be solo creatures. We are meant to work together collectively, creatively. At least in my book, we are. And why not? If I get to shift this narrative, why don't I?
I'm very communal myself. Absolutely. Yeah.
So in real life, meeting friends, connecting with them. And if you can't meet a friend, you know, a friend doesn't have to be in the human form. You know, when we step outside and we take off our shoes and we walk in the grass, you mentioned the thing about like the squirrels doing what they're doing. You know, for a moment, just making that connection. Maybe you're just making a connection for the moment with nature. And when you step outside, you've got your shoes off, you just take that moment and you listen to the leaves rustle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That to me is important.
You mentioned that your friends don't always have to be in the human form. Of course, like you say, animals and possibly even George Burns dolls too.
Wait a minute, you have two fun dolls. You had your
Yes.
Bob Denver doll and your George Burns doll.
Yes. George is here. My aunt collected dolls and some serious ones. And this is one of the collectible George Burns ones. The cigar, the red hanky there, the pocket square. He usually pops in on the show. He's usually hanging down below. I consider him like an associate producer. He's smoking a cigar. He's enjoying his martinis. He's been thoroughly enjoying this conversation, Julie. And he said you knocked it out of the park. And he sends you lots of levity and lots of love from him and from Gracie to you, Julie Lamb, from George Burns, who played God in the movies. So you got God on your side. I mean, how cool is that?
You know, sometimes I have to be really transparent. Sometimes when people say that word, every now and again I go, And then I realize God is also an acronym. It's
That's
good,
right.
Orderly decision. And if we can live in that space with good, orderly decision, we are godlike.
That's
and
right.
We get to share that with other people. So thank you, George. I will take your blessings.
That is incredible. Yeah, I know. He pops in towards the latter part, and everybody like, oh, there's George. We had a nostalgic episode we did 2 years ago, and people just fell in love with George. So he makes his little pop up there and greets the guests. This was fantastic, my friend. Do you know that we chatted for an hour and a half? It didn't feel like it, right?
Wow.
Isn't
I'll
that?
send you the bill.
I was going to say an hour and a half, and it went by in a New York minute. But if you take two New Yorkers and put them together, you got to put a pot of coffee on at least.
Wow. So I can't wait to read the comments. That
Oh,
to me is,
yes.
learning about everyone who wants to learn more.
Exactly right. Everybody that's getting something out of what we're doing here, this entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series. I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, Julie, and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you, my friend.
I didn't have any expectations other than I wanted to make some fun. And I absolutely know we made fun. So I lied. I did have an expectation. I wanted to have the F word with you. I wanted to have fun.
That is one of the best ways to describe it. This is really fantastic. Any final message of maybe positivity or inspiration about our conversation, the show, or anything you want to share, my friend?
Yeah. There's so many. I asked my grandfather on his passing what I didn't know that he could share with me. And he said, you. Made me think, did I really know me? And Graham Nash also said something to me that I'd love to share with you guys. Is he said that when he was traveling, he asked one of the beef eaters in England something, and he maybe was doing some type of psychedelics. I'm not going to corroborate that story, but he said that the beef eaters told him to be. So I live by the mantra that it's important to know you, to be, never stop dreaming. Never stop dreaming, my friend. If you have a dream, do it. Don't let anyone stand in your way. Be honorable, be true to your word, have ethics, have morals, have values. Your word is your bond. And know that if we're friends, we're going to be friends for a long time. So get comfortable.
Absolutely. And that has happened right here on the show, my friend. If people want to learn more, of course, we mentioned this site, howtowithjuliesue.com. Any other sites out there?
Yeah, I'm really easy to find on LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn, Julie Lamb.
That's a great one.
That's a really great one. You get to see some fun things. And the great thing about LinkedIn is I'm connected with so many other people that are doing fabulous things in the business that if you have now a curiosity about some of the things we've spoken about on your show, you'll get a chance to see within the community how many other people are just like you and figuring out how to do it and, become magical in their own world. And what does that mean for them if they're just a business or if there's someone who's doing something to consumer or you just want to learn. And my DMs are always open, Jim. You can always find me. It's easy to drop into my DMs. I'd let you know that if you're someone who is not a good person, which you don't have any of those here. If you're someone who's a creeper, you don't have any of those here. You absolutely will not get any time from me. But if you're someone who's good, we will share in the love and light because we are part of the Levity family.
Absolutely, my friend. This was really fantastic. It was a pleasure, truly, to have you on the show, Julie. You are a ray of sunshine, enthusiasm, passion, extraordinarily gifted and talented. And I'm so glad that our paths have crossed now here through this venue of the Jim Master Show Live. We're definitely going to keep the porch light on for you. You're welcome back anytime and spread the word about our series. Definitely does take a village for sure.
Jim, thank you so much for having this space and meeting the community that you have. It's really an honor, and I can't wait to share more and go back and look at your 800 shows, 900 shows?
What's 900? Yeah.
What? You know what, you guys, I have so much to catch up on and you guys as a family. So you just know I'm going to be reading your comments and seeing you on other things. And if you get a rando alert from someone from a show like earlier on the season and it's me, you'll know what I'm doing at 2:00 in the morning while I'm traveling on that free Wi-Fi.
Right. That's it. You're the best, Julie. Enjoy the rest of your day. And again, thanks for stopping by our show. You brightened our day today, which was really, really cool. And we'll stay in touch, definitely. We're in the New York tri-state area, so hopefully we'll break bread, maybe with Wayne as well, what have you. Good things on the way. And it's always great to connect with fabulous people. And I think we've certainly done that here in front of the Lovity world, which we appreciate as well. You enjoy and keep spreading your Lovity as well, my friend.
My pleasure. Bye, Jim.
Take care, Julie. Is she not amazing or what, gang? That's Julie Lamb, multi-woman, Jill of all trades. I mean, if you've been following along, you had an opportunity to really experience through this conversation the extraordinary things that she has done, accomplished, believes in, her vision, people she's had an opportunity to work with. There's a lot of people, in the business world and in the celebrity world as well that she has worked with. She didn't want to necessarily drop particular names and all, but we were chatting before we went live on the air, and she's worked with a lot of incredible people, in various ways, shapes, and forms, whether it's musically or through fashion or through NFT or other things. And it's fantastic. You know what's great about what we do here at the Jim Masters Show, Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series? We don't do interviews. We do conversations. Kind of like the old school Johnny Carson, Dick Cavett, Regis Philbin, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, even a little bit like the conversations they have with Live and Kelly and Ryan. We have a good conversation. That's what we do here. And we bring you guys in, and we're very interactive, and we love having you here. And the myriad of guests, the scope and breadth of the guests that come through and stop by the Jim Masters Show series is really extraordinary. We're not in a niche, which I think is really, really cool. We're not just talking about actors and actresses and singers and, people of all different kinds of backgrounds that are just in a particular niche. It's really everything from Broadway and Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, culinary arts, sports, comedy, inspiration, and health and wellness and finance and you name it. And we always learn something. And that's what a traditional talk show series is really like. You can make it niche just about one particular topic, but I like niche things, but I also like variety. And I think, it keeps things exciting when we have all these different guests from all these different backgrounds. So you can binge watch the hundreds of episodes of our series and not get bored, because you have all these different things coming at you, all these different viewpoints and ideas and, entertainment that happens as well, and our levity and lovity. And I think that's really the spice of life, because every day is something different. Every day is something unique. So continue to watch and support. Don't forget, you can do super thanks on our YouTube channel. Every episode, there is a little super thanks icon there. During the show and chat, you can do super chat, super emoji, super stickers. That helps support what we do here as well. But one of the key things is to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give it a thumbs up, leave a comment for us, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's no cost when you subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's that red button that looks kind of like this. Just hit that. Doesn't cost you anything. Make sure you click the notification bell. There's a little notification bell icon. That way there you'll be alerted about every episode. Of course, we're constantly pumping out content. It's 2.5 years thus far with this series and almost 900 episodes. It's amazing. One thing we talked about on the show today with Julie Lamb is the ability to breathe, take time for yourself. And this has been brought back. I used to show this on the early episodes of our series. Don't forget to relax. Now, you guys maybe remember that I picked this up when we were on a family vacation in Newport, Rhode Island, and saw it in the window and said, I got to have that, and just brought it on the show. This was something that was like around the house. This wasn't meant for the Jim Masters Show. But, when in the early days when we put this show together, we were grabbing everything off walls and everything we could to create the atmosphere. And this was one of the things we included. And this is sort of like a 1920s, 1930s beach scene there in Newport, Rhode Island. And don't forget to relax. Take care of one another. Love one another. Take care of yourself. Don't forget to take time to love yourself as well. Not in an egotistical way, but in a way that lets you know that you have self-worth. And, everybody's welcome to join us here, and everybody's invited to come to the party and just enjoy. It doesn't matter how much money you have and what your gender is and political views and race, color, creed, religion, if any, where you live, what zip code you're coming from, doesn't matter. Everybody's welcome to join us here. And there's always a seat for you here at the Jim Masters Show table. We also say, we don't say goodbye around here. We say see you later. Ciao, cheers, hasta la vista, slancha, moi loop, sayonara, shalom, be well, take care. And we will be back with more great episodes. Check out our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and everywhere else. Of course, you can find Julie everywhere she mentioned, and How To with Julie Sue is also a great thing that she's doing. And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Jim Masters TV as well. Thanks for all the great comments, everybody. We really appreciate it. You are the best. We have some of the best folks that watch and support this series, with our international audience that watches the Jim Masters Show, literally from all around the world. We're based here in the New York area in the United States, but we have viewers all across the United States, North America, South America, Asia, Europe, Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Iceland. It truly is absolutely extraordinary. So we thank you and you and you and you for joining us as often as you do. We realize maybe you can't watch every show live. Some of you do. You never miss any. But again, you can see them all in the archives on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV as well. So we're going to scoot off. We thank you so much for being with us. This is your host, Jim Masters. Thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, I'll be right here waiting for you, kind of like Richard Marx sang in that song, right here waiting for you for the next episode of the Jim Masters Show series. You're the very best. We love you all. Take care and be well, gang. We'll see you again soon. Cheers.